I thought I saw a lot more RSVPs than this.
It said 16.
Yep.
Ranger was saying, so.
Yeah.
So
Well, anyways, this is the new facility for us to meet in.
I've been here before. We had one.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, one you couldn't make it.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Popovich.
So we've made an arrangement with ECPI that we're going to be rotating between this campus and the one in Glenelg, in Innsbruck, to be more specific. And the next one, ECPI is going to be in September.
We're still working on the details, but yes, it looks like we're going to skip next month, maybe September.
Kind of do every other month.
Yeah. If it works out well that way, because we're also going to try to target, I've already talked to Kim Mahan for max potential, and she's cool with it. There's some things we need to talk about first. And John Tyler, so Mark replied to me. I was targeting October and February. No, September and February. What month are we in right now? This is July. So August, but he said that's too soon. So August is out of the picture.
Yeah, we'll
So pretty much everybody here I know. I'm sorry, your name? Malcolm?
You met it before. I got everything. I give you my card.
That's right, you did.
Yeah.
My apologies. Anyways, you guys know the spiel. Thank you for coming. I'm going to hand it off to Granger to introduce our speaker today. I'll be doing the Stump the Chump later on afterwards, so stick around. It's on the cloud security.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which one?
Which one?
Ours.
CCSP?
Yeah.
Yeah. So last month we were over tech systems, and Chris was at the meeting, and we got to talking after the meeting. You know, he was talking about a topic that he likes to speak about, and I'm going, guess what? Just got recruited to come and speak at this meeting. So I'm going to read his bio simply because I don't memorize it. So he's the CTO of Connexus Secure, which is a fintech company, allowing account holders to share their financial data securely. He's a board member of SCRUM RVA. Has spent his career leading infrastructure and software projects with a focused addiction on startups. Yeah. He holds a number of certifications like Certified Scrum Master, Certified Product Owner, Scrum at Scale Practitioner, is that how it's pronounced? And Security Plus. Anybody here familiar with Scrum? The Agile framework? Okay.
Fantastic.
Good, I'm glad, yeah, that's great. So anyway, please give a warm welcome to Chris Eide.
I'm rather addicted to this topic. I'm also kind of addicted to security. I've been in the infrastructure world or in administration. Security is just better than what you did. Enter in software development in the last few years. It's just cool what we did, especially in the financial industry. So we now have Scrum, and we're going to talk through that. Hi, I'm Chris. That's my picture. If you want to get a hold of me, want to get the slides, find me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about this afterwards, about your meeting situations, for the love of God, contact me. If I can't answer them, I know a lot of people. I will find you the person to help you out. So we're going to scrum the heck out of this stuff. We're going to go over the why, the how, does it scale? Short answer is yes. What is the impact of security when we move into the scrum world? And then our own lessons learned in a startup world in fintech of how we had to maneuver and bolted security into our Scrum process. One of the big components about Scrum is faster cycle time. So if you look at the entire value delivery of a business, it's one word, cycle time. The time the CEO goes, hey, let's introduce this new product, put it into a customer's hands. That total cycle time is what Scrum is bolted together to help teams get there faster. So I'm going to start with why. I think that a lot of people that talk about Scrum start with the how, and they miss the why. Why was it born? There were two gentlemen, one I'll never assume here today, back in around 1993. Back then, IT projects were constantly late. They were over budget consistently. One big one was the FBI Sentinel program, and they hemorrhaged almost $500 million. It was the largest IT project failure at that time, for that day. They completed that project in 18 months with a tenth of the budget and a fraction of the team using SCRUM. Part of the big problem is Gantt charts. Who here knows what a Gantt chart is? Fantastic. They are works of fiction. We used to use them in the startup world, and I use them in a bunch of projects, and I designed them out, and I did my little presentations just like this, a whole bunch of other people in the room with driving expensive cars, and I'm like, look, it's gonna be on time and on budget. The chart says so. I promise. Yeah, no. And then the last little piece is that back then, and even when you're doing those type of projects, work sucks. You're constantly being driven to deliver. You're out of, you haven't hit your milestones. You're not delivering. You're not seeing the value. So I put like the Eisenhower quote up here. Preparing for battle, it's always found that plans are useless. Planning is indispensable. That is one of the key components to SCRUM when it was developed. The first little piece, and I'll introduce Dr. Sutherland hammers on, is bad people are not born. You don't look and blame a bad person for a bad delivery. You have to look at the things that incentivize them to do bad things. There's a great semi-similar work in psychology of, would you be a Nazi? The short answer is yes. Even you, a normal person, would have joined the Nazi program, because we're all conditioned to follow. Top-down control, usually what that means is if the CEO is telling you how to do your job, you have no engagement. You don't care. You're a cog in the wheel. What that means is that as they control more from the top, they get less effort on the bottom. You see it in the products. You interact with them, and then you look at the people that are actually delivering the service to you, and it's like the lights are on, don't tell. Reductionist theory. This is Stanley. We're historically attuned to get it faster. Let's systematize it. We can get all we have to do to make this work is just completely remove all of the inefficiencies. We'll have SOPs, we'll tell you what time you're going to start. You have to start at this point, we're going to have there with a stopwatch, and then if you don't deliver in 5 seconds, we're going to hit you with a stick next time you'll deliver. Because that's the reason it's overtime and over budget. Actually, nope. There's an additional pieces, the lack of alignment between why we go to work, why we do what we do, why we care about it, and the actual execution. If someone's telling you how to do your job, it's really, really hard to remember why you get on the wall and put your hands on. And the last little pieces, this one gets hammered. I think Jeff Bezos at Amazon said this 2 days ago. Roughly, lack of focus on value delivery. The focus is on the process, not on what you're actually delivering, whether that is incident response, trying to educate and, get through your compliance checklist. If people will focus on the process to do it and not go and say, okay, who does that help? So this is Dr. Sutherland and Ken Schrader. Dr. Sutherland got his PhD, I think, at Stanford, the precursor to bioinformatics. He invented SCRUM. Him and another gentleman, whose name escapes me, back in 1993. He was searching for a way to have organizations, specifically his teams, not be abysmally late, over budget, and to get the winning teams. So what he developed was a lightweight framework that focuses on team performance over individual performance. And just some rough numbers. If I say, you know what, I'm going to make you 10% more efficient, because I'm an efficiency process engineer, I get a 4-hour per week. bump in my efficiency. Now, if I take that same number and I take a team of 5, and I make them 10% more efficient, that's a 20-hour per week bump. 133% more value to me because you're more efficient than trying to chase the individual. Inside the teams that he coaches, on average, he gets anywhere from 300 to 500% throughput increase, usually within the first month to 2 months. The numbers are staggering. And since his background is in science, he has the case studies. You can't argue with him. Just pull them out, slap it around. It's based off of the Toyota production system. We also called, a lot of components, you'll see that lean manufacturing here in the U.S. It's the United States bastardization of the Toyota production system. Talk to a Toyota production system person, lean people will tell you it's the right way to do things. Who here knows what lean manufacturing or lean process thinking is? Ever heard of that? All right, great. So for the rest of you, I'll give you the simplified version. Great little business mixer with a lean, consultant summed it up the best. He said the whole purpose of lean is to stop doing stupid shit over and over and over again. Boom, end of story. No, piece was a focus on people over processes and procedures. There are a lot of dumb, stupid processes and procedures that you go through. Why the hell did I do them? They look back and ask the question, what value do they deliver? Lo and behold, no one knows. But you do them anyways, because it's all about the process. Empirical process control. In other words, how do I know that as team members or as a team, we're actually getting faster, better, we're delivering more value? Like, we're success. How do I define success? Like, if you look inside of the IT security world, it's like, okay, what's success? We didn't get hacked today. Fantastic. Well, I can't freaking measure that, kind of, sort of. But how do I work the things to map it over? So built into SCRUM is empirical process control. And the last little piece is adaptation, the ability to adopt speed of change. The reason why Gantt charts are epic failures. Failures in World War One, there's still failures now, is that the second you put that Gantt chart down, and the reality of business and life happens, so does change. So the component of this framework is the ability to shift the team's focus to the new reality. Again, in the security world, that reality is constantly changing. Some component, like a lot of stuff, they're lazy like us, a lot of the exploits are not new. But then there's always new stuff. We have to change that. How many of you have heard Scrum? Great. How many have been on a Scrum team? All right. I'm going to lightning fast go through this, just to hit some points on this, mainly because I'm going to get closer to the end and go through our little journey and then open it up for questions. Generally. This info kit, you'll see a lot. I'm going to steal a lot from Scrummy. Scrummy is the self-performance consulting firm in education. All kinds of stuff. Scrum Alliance, these certified Scrum Masters. There's a few others, safe and some other credits, but I steal all my stuff from God credit. You have a product owner. What a product owner is usually correlative to a business line manager. The purpose of a product owner is to align what we're going to do as a team to what the business is. In other words, you have to put things in order. Because the reality is that human beings, we suck at multitasking, like abysmal. We're single process, entities. Some make it a little bit better, about 2% of our population, but the reality is when they scan the brain, we single task everything. So we're going to line up all of our work in order of value. If you ever want to be a PO person, come find me. I'll tell you how that value piece works. Generally, I think that's what's valuable. Hopefully it is. Then you pick up the work. As a team, you guys look and say, okay, at where we're at, we do one-week sprints. For a whole bunch of reasons, I even have a huge presentation. Get a chance to do one-week sprints. As a team, we agree to pick up a set amount of work PO doesn't tell us what we're going to do that week. The business doesn't tell us what we're going to do that week. We as a group come together and say, we can commit to this amount of work to get this done. Because it doesn't matter if business comes and beats you harder and makes you work harder. The data says you're going to get that amount of work done. You might get a little bit better at it, but the burnout will ensue to the team one part. You enter into your sprint cycle, you have, as work flows through the work center, lean world, this is called work center. And then at the end of that cycle, you go back to the business, if it's project-based work, and you say, demo day, or officially sprint review. You say, here's all this work. The purpose of this is built throughout this process. It's built on there's a few of them. There's a Deming cycle called Plan, Do, Check, Act. For fighter pilots, if you've been in the Air Force, you've heard this. This is kind of new and warfighter stuff. OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. This is an entire cycle time. So they say we think we need to do this value. You now get their input. The number of times you've delivered work and you're like, oh, that's not right. It's right there. They get to say, well, yeah, well, now that I see it, I think, well, can you move it over here and stuff like that? That's the purpose of the review, is to engage the other side of the business to get it done. Once everything's great, ship it off to the races. During this cycle, every 24 hours, we're going to have less than a 15-minute stand-up. The purpose of this is twofold. One is to kind of gauge if anyone's hung up. People have a tendency to get lost in the weeds and get lost. And it's your job as a teammate to go save them from themselves. A number of times I have been sunk into something for 3 days and had someone go by and go, aha! 5 minutes later, I feel really, really stupid. So that's one little piece of the 24-hour. Second little piece is we do work. Like, it's dependent. We have dependencies on other things. We're going to talk about them every day. And then, we're going to have a Scrum Master over here who's going to help us facilitate this. More importantly, they're there to remove those dependencies, find those blockers, try to get rid of them so you can focus on your job. After we get through this cycle, we've done our demo, the business, the product owner are happy, we deliver it. One of the important, powerful aspects of this is we're all going to sit down and we're going to talk about how it went. What worked, what didn't work, and how we can get better. I actually changed the question for our teams to, what was great, what didn't work out so well, and then the third important question is what can we do as a team to make your job suck less? The purpose is to list out things that we can do. We put it on your very next sprint. We put it in our backlog, and we do that to remove the thing that makes our work suck. So over time, we iron out a lot of things. Like, you're not going to bootstrap a team straight into CI/CD pipeline, straight into production. Not unless you already have an existing team stood up and, I don't know, you got for one, you got a whole bunch of teams, and you just use that. You're starting from smaller people, you kind of work your way into it. Retrospectives are a great, great tool to do that. I'm going to hit through these. So condensing hopefully about 5 to 10 minutes, about a few weeks worth of training. Generally, you want 3 to 9 members on your team with an average of 4.7. Has to do with the number of cognitive relays, I think that's what they call them. When you have conversations, you're maintaining them. The average human being keep about 5, maybe 7 pathways open. If you're super smart, you do 9. What that means is that in smaller groups, you get to remember, Joe said this thing this other day, and I got to go talk to Joe. And then you have that communication. As your teams grow larger, you have to in and remember those components. Makes it a little harder. So 3 to 9 teams, what the science is borne out is 4.7 to 5, which the Army's known for a while because the average squad size is study. There's focus on consistent delivery. For the part where I said, hey, everyone agrees to do work, have to get in the habit of consistently delivering. Even if it's like total trash, you delivered 4 items this week. The next week, you delivered 5. It's abysmal, but it's consistent. If you have a consistent process that's horribly working, you can do something about it. If you have a horribly inconsistent, process that just sometimes delivers 50, sometimes delivers 2, it's very difficult to fix that. You have a focus on increasing throughput, reduction of dependencies, flow of work. As you go through this process, you'll notice that you will digest these and break these work product items down into more sizable chunks, so that they flow through the work center a lot faster. Another little piece is to make work transparent. This piece right here, I think is critical for security. You can at any time, if you're on this process and you're tooled up, go and inspect their work. It's fully audited, go look. At any time. For us, it's up on the board, it's in Jira. One uses Jira, and you can go as a security professional and go and say, okay, yeah, we're doing the right things. The product owner can go and see what the progress is. He doesn't bother anybody. He just goes up to the board and he looks. Stakeholders can all filter it. They look. That's the power, of transparency. The other little side effect is this happens a lot in large enterprises. You cannot hide. There were projects I had where I look at me like, who are you? I know you're on payroll, but what do you do again? And weren't you on coffee for 2 weeks or something? Yeah. When you put it on the board, you cannot hide. And it's rare, but those people do exist. The transparency also forces everyone on the team to focus on the value of delivery. Doing a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't deliver value, we're going to stop talking about it. Either in the retro, we're going to stand up and refocus to this is the most important thing. Definition of done. Outside of, I would put DoD as the number one thing we can use in security. For us, we bolt in a lot of our security requirements in here. We pulled up, and we said you cannot pass to the next step until you get these requirements. Team norms, more about coding standards and how we do work standards, kind of iron out interpersonal issues. Okay, we'll stop now. A bunch of stuff. Questions? Great. So, why SCRUM? It's to change the speed of now, meaning that things are constantly changing and we have to adapt. It's also significantly more efficient. On average, it's 300% more efficient than any other process today. And that number isn't made up. It's born out of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of meetings. Dr. Sutherland, bottom line, increased the number of organizations 50%. So their capitalization, their market cap rate doubled. And that's because of this. Their teams got more focused and were significantly more efficient. For us, in 1 week, you get to put things in stakeholders' hands within a week. They're like, hey, I've got this idea, blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, that sounds great. Let's go ahead and do a spike and we'll mock something up. 1 week later, you plop it on and you're like, here's my rough drawing. What do you think? If you're a stakeholder and your burn rate is $2.4 million a year, which means your capital expense is $200,000 a month, and it takes you a month to get that demo. That demo costs you $200,000. A week is phenomenal. Stakeholders get to see the functional progress every week if they want to. The ones that can, they show up. The ones that don't, they don't have to. They can retask priorities without causing whiplash. So the number of times you come in, they're like, hey, we're all going to go left today. And then you go left for about 4 hours, and then everyone shifts to the right. Yeah. There's set little parts of the cycle where they're able to change the direction of the team without impacting the team. And for us, it's once a week. Once we get into our cycle, You have some fancy new little thing, we're gonna see, hold it off. It also forces a brutal focus on black fog value ordering. What is the most important thing you're doing next? It's a simple question, hard one to answer, and it forces a lot of business side to start talking about that instead of like, hey, this is new and shiny little clean. Can I have this? Oh, I gotta have it because he has it. Okay, what about that has the most value? Because I'll get you this tip of the sleeve next week. Reduction of dependencies. And then last one, piece, reason. Sorry about that. The reason it's called SCRUM is when someone was going out to find, essentially was like, this sucks, I got to do something different. And they literally spent weeks trying to find something. He found the New Zealand All Blacks team. Who has heard of New Zealand's All Blacks team? So they are the most winningest team ever. 77.3% win ratio is their average for almost over 100 years. So the big reason why he called it SCRUM is because of that team, which is, sorry, I missed this part. It's rugby. The original football.
I'm Googling it.
Yeah. I was like, there's actually I think on the last slide, if you get a chance, Netflix has this great little documentary on the New Zealand All Blacks team. If you guys get into this, watch the documentary. A lot of this stuff makes sense. Not here, Mike. We're special. The number of times I've heard that. It's been ridiculous. Whether it's in government or education or whatever you're doing. The answer is nope, you're not. You're not a special butterfly. We have SCRUM in education. It popped, and I think it was in New Zealand. The average score across the board for the schools was 10%. They added double digit switching to SCRUM. It's in HR, it's in marketing, it's in hospitality, it's in pretty much every industry is trying it out. It's lightweight, it's efficient. The majority of agile companies use SCRUM. I didn't put the percentage up there because it hasn't been posted. 85% of companies who claim they are doing agile are actually doing some sort of SCRUM. So at its base, the team pieces, SCRUM is there. Does it scale? Yes, it does. You've got safe, you've got less, and then my favorite is it's just like SCRUM at scale. In other words, not only does it work for an individual team, provided you get it working well at the lower level, it scales to massive size. It scales to massive size. And by massive, I mean massive. These are his companies. They didn't exist 25 years ago. The Fortune 500 life expectancies is 15 years before Magazine. That was last year. The life expectancy dropped in the last 50 years. It used to be 75 years. You got on the list, you're going to be around for at least 75 years. A few years ago, that was down to 25 years. Now it's down to 15 years. His little mantra that I love is either adopt to adopting, change, or you die. The number of Fortune 500 people that are no longer on that list, if you think it's on that price, they use SCRUM or a version thereof. So, slow down there, buddy. If we iron out this process and they're shipping in production constantly, what about security? So, security, change equals risk. Every time I make a change to a system, I have to mitigate risk. I have to get a circuit, everything. So, now we get more change, those get a little bit more efficient. We've got more risk we have to deal with. So you got more change happening. So if we get more changes more often, And we got even more risk. So it's happening faster. But in our cases, we're shipping in production, for Quincy 3 times a week. So we got more change more often at the speed of now. I quit. Like, how do you fix that? You can't do it as a security professional if you're using manual processes. If you're going in and saying, hey, you need to show me you did code review. Okay, you need to show me you checked for all these things. That doesn't work here. What you can do is automate the boring out of it. I call it automate the stupid out of it. You can leverage the definition of done. I'm going to take the security stance of it. You can leverage what is that aspect to be done. And bolt security square in there. You can't pass go. This ticket doesn't get done. That work does not move forward unless you prove to me you've done code review, you've done all this other things. Like, for us, like there's a technology box to stop you. We also bake in healthy security habits. I have this one here. Okay, we'll get to the healthy security habits. It forces you, in order to keep up with the rest of those teams moving that fast, to tool up and automate the stupid out of the process. So static code analysis, iron out your CI/CD pipelines. Here is, if you want the raw numbers, I can give you from a few friends of ours. We don't keep them because sort of doesn't make a lot of sense. Make the investment. Inland game and fishery, that investment had an immediate return. They got 40% more shipped into production by doing simply the equivalent of unit testing, automated unit test scripting. They saved themselves, and that was within one of their sprints after they tooled up. So their return was one sprint. You can use Scrum in retrospectives to have it help build a security oriented pipeline. Retrospectives would have them for a fantastic time to show up as a security professional and say, you know what, you see this little piece right here? You guys didn't do a good job here. Let's talk about that. For our teams, we talk about that. It's important to what we do. And it helps build that narrative, for them to start having that conversation themselves. The little concept we hear, since we're all, agile and super adaptive, or even break things, but not production. If you look at pen testing, I'm going to pick on pen testing, a lot of our security things, please don't kill me, it's a function of QA. We're essentially doing quality assurance to make sure that if someone puts bad inputs or does bad actors do bad things, that we get the appropriate response from our systems. So what I wanted to do, and this is about us, the organization may not do this, is just like QA in our cycle, move it to the left. I want security not only talked about up front, but we're going to bolt it right into our QA process. So when I get to my pen testers, because this is the goal I have for our teams, is that these guys are bored out of their skull. Like, they can't find anything. Fantastic. So what we do is we leverage acceptance criteria inside of our acceptance criteria as part of test-driven development or configure-driven development, picker, whatever development. We bolt in bad actor negative tests. Who knows unit tests, negative tests, QA terminology? Yeah, a little bit. Unit tests, test a small unit of work. Integration tests, is something bigger. We have full end-to-end testing, tests whole application. We have positive tests. In other words, I'm a good person. I want to go and pay my bill. Well, I click on all the right things and I pay it. Well, I'm a drunk monkey and I can't pay my bill, so I hit the wrong button. It's a negative test. The system should respond in a certain way. Well, end-to-end security, I'm going to fuzzy interface. In other words, I'm going to go and try to buffer overflow here. I want to pick whatever. System, just like a negative test, should respond in a certain way. So we actually, work through during our impact conversation what a bad actor did. We picked a few of them, both in our acceptance criteria. Then we go into our automation tools and say, you know what? This is a negative test. Just have them constantly, every time we, push into our dev and test environments, gonna try to hack ourselves based on our negative tests. The last little piece of SCRUM retrospectives is a great way to constantly talk about, we didn't start here. We started like everyone else does. The pen tester was like, hey, we found this big issue. You get your little high, medium, and low, and then everyone's like, oh my God, and they all respond. That's 6 months went off. So we slowly started to pick these off. And we use retrospectives to find out which one's the most important to do next. And then we do. Who here knows what CI/CD, pipelining, automatic deployments, DevOps? Okay. I'm going to hit on some terminology. So there's a constant concern, like, oh, we got DevOps. That's just going to make my job harder. I disagree. Systematizing. In other words, you take the human out. Every time I take a human out from a manual process, then I reduce the likelihood of errors. I reduce what I have to actually check. I increase my logging, and I make the attack vectors start to shrink, and my attack surfaces start to shrink. Because for us, you can't do it. Like, there's no physical access to it. Virtually, it's like I put in controls to where the machine does it. Now my auditory requirement is the machine that pushes buttons to go and do that work. So I reduce my scope to extent. For DevOps, it puts us in a better security posture. That means is that as I take the humans out, the more I take them out, the more I can sleep at night. And lastly, I push to the right people, but the simple it is, it's worth the investment. I spent a lifetime in infrastructure. I love it. But the 2 a.m. on a Sunday night doing production deployments is about the most dismal thing in my career path. This helps me to not do this. We do our production deployment in one team, 5 minutes. Another team, it's 15 minutes, more forward facing. Some teams, we're not there yet. Amazon pushes into production, I think they're up to 70 to 80 times a day or more. There are other teams, I think Spotify's like 14, 15 times a day. Now, here's a little thing to demystify that. Amazon's got thousands of teams. Someone's always deploying something to production. Spotify has hundreds of teams. Someone's always deploying to production. Doesn't mean those single teams constantly deploying. Capital One has teams that when they get to the end of their work, which could be 3 days, they get signed off. It ships 3 days in a finance institution. It's in your commercial vision. Another important little thing, and the reason I like Scrum when it comes to security, small change is small risk. Big change is big risk. So if I'm shipping a whole bunch of change, I've got a whole bunch of change controls got to happen, not only for quality, but for security. Why is that important in Scrum? Is as we shrink our size of our lead, we also shrink the corresponding change, the actual work product we're going to ship. For us, it's tiny. We're talking a quarter to half a day. If it's more than 2 days, it's too big. And it's constantly getting shipped. So I have constant small changes happening. And it's really easy to get into a rhythm and a pattern and systemize small changes. When you do that, you're also going to iron out your pipeline to production. You don't want to be pushing the deployment for this tiny little change constantly. You're going to automate the stupid out of it. And then in the process of that, deployment process, you're going to bake security right in. For us and auditors, report, boom, get out of my face. I always like to end with some light reading, or not for a few ways. 2 great books. There's one that's on here. His son, Jeff Sullivan, forced it. J.J. Sullivan forced Dr. Sullivan's write a book. This fantastic run through of why SCRUM was born, why it exists, why it works, and then his case studies he goes over on the impact of organizations that adopt it. I think any conversation on why you shouldn't do this, no, is pointless. Like, do it. Another one is General Stanley with Crystal, team of teams, about cross-functional and dependencies inside of teams. First part's a little bit boring. It's absolutely fantastic about how I take this to scale. Their reaction time from Intel in Iraq went from a few days to 14 days to have their special operations reaction, to some of that happens. And I think they cut it down to 30 minutes. He didn't authorize the strike. He removed the top-down control. And through that process, he was able to defeat an insurgency that had no leader. So, fantastic book. Another one that is on here is Phoenix Project. Has anyone heard of that book before? Fantastic. If you haven't heard it, you can get the audio book if you're kind of like I drive a lot. And it's about for those in operations on the IT side of it, kind of IT failures, and a story about journeying into using lean type of thought processes to get that cleaned up. That's a nice improved jobs well. The Scrum Guide hasn't changed a lot. They did a recent update. Well, it hasn't changed much. It hasn't changed much in 1 to 2 decades. They've added a little bit of stuff. It's a simple framework. You can go look it up. It's free. Go get it. If you want particular training, Scrum Alliance, because I gave them a bunch of money. Really, really good. If you get up to Boston, Scrumming is fantastic. But just go to the website. They have open labs. They have all of the ton of case studies on there. You can go pretty deep on their stuff. We also here in Roanoke have Scrum RBA. Please come out and play with us. There's only 600 of us. About 60, 70 of us do monthly meetups like this. Or if you have particular questions or anything, just find me on LinkedIn. I can't help you when it comes to Scrum. I have a lot of people that will happily come and sit down and talk to you about it. But one of the biggest concerns inside of Scrum RBA, for Dr. Sutherland and Scrum at large, is a lot of people are doing bad Scrum. And by bad, I mean they're not following the basics. Basics is rooted in computer science. Bioinformatics professor. You need to empirically prove to him that this works. So there isn't a lot of some leeway of hey everyone, let's go hug a tree and that's the right way to do it. No, let's talk about science. Questions? Leah.
You said go into the sprints are 1 to 4 weeks, and we're doing 2-week sprints. I don't know why we decided that. I think we felt like a week was really scary to get us any substantial amount of work done. I think we've learned now that, like you said, it's kind of bite-sized chunks. More frequent.
How did you get to one?
Yeah.
Well, 2008, Jeff wrote an article about bootstrapping teams and sprints. The reason why you started with 2 weeks is 2 weeks. It's kind of like, oh, well, that's a safe way to go. Started out with 4 weeks. And they, a number of years ago, they moved back to 3. Now it seems to be the average is about 2. We started at 3, moved it to 2. And I was like, okay, the problem is that we're, as a team, now mind you, we're in a severe compression. We're a startup, which means you never have enough time, you never have enough resources, whether it's, person hours or actual physical capital. Got to get it done. We switched to 1 week sprints and boot it up into the reason for us is at the end of that sprint, we have a retrospective. The biggest power, at least from my perspective, to Scrum is we stopped, we're back in our week, and we're like, okay, well, that worked. Wow, we dropped the ball here.
Yeah, I
What can we
can
do
see
about
that.
that?
I can see that, start up a more frequent feedback, kind of close that loop a little.
The feedback loops.
Yeah,
So if you switch to 1 week sprints, you go from 24 feedback loops to 52. It is how we got ironed out, our pipeline to where we're at right now in our production deployments. We started at 5 days. How long it took to deploy the production for one of our teams. 1 week sprints is 45 minutes. So inside the Scrum guide, he actually has some specific numbers there. You can reference him as far as the science, but why we time box it's 45 minutes. The reason I bootstrapped us into 1 week sprints because we weren't doing Scrum very, very well. It was new to the team, it was new to the organization, and you have a lot of gyrations to get through that. So I'm having it every week. Now, our retros are about 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. Everyone's engaged, they're all focused.
The last thing you do on a Friday,
For one team, yeah. We do that. We pull up sprint review. They start their week fresh. On another team, we do it Monday morning. Monday morning. The teams pick. So as long as it happens, when it happens, it's really up to them. If they want to change the date, we'll change the date. So.
how does that work with the sprint planning session? Because again, they're going to have it right on the tail end of the retrospect.
Yeah. Generally, why you want this planning session right after the retro is take something off of your retro, put it on the next sprint.
Yeah. Everything's fresh. The feedback is fresh in everybody's minds.
Yeah.
What worked, what didn't work.
Yeah, and then immediately, take action on something because it builds a constant cycle that you're there. We're here as a team. We win as a team. That's not a free pitch. You win as a team, you lose as a team. I don't want heroes. I don't want villains. I want superstars, super teams. But yeah, one is to take action, it's to refresh your mind. We're going to talk about it. A lot of times what happens, at least now, it's natural progression, is we'll fix something, we'll figure something out. Literally, as we're going through it, we're like, yeah, I think one of the guys is writing the ticket of the things we're going to do. It could be tech debt, it could be whatever it is. I section off anywhere from 10 to 20%, usually about 20% of our throughput, just to address that type of stuff and tech debt in general. Did that answer your question? Yeah, another little piece on the 1 week sprint. Some of our retros took a while. We weren't doing a good job communicating. A lot of headbutting and misunderstanding what retrospectives was about. So we had to work through that. We worked through it every week. We got a lot better. The team on Monday, they get through their retro. We have one stand-up. Then we have, it's a little bit unique because you're a chunk of them are out of India. Then we go straight into retro and into sprint planning, and then they get back to work. Those three events happen anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. Like, done.
We're not talking about long drawn out. Like like you said, we limit our stand-ups 15 minutes.
Yes.
So you don't get into long drawn out updates and analysis. If there's something that comes up and everyone gives their their stand up and little spiel. It kind of turns into an update in a way, this is what I accomplished yesterday, this is what I plan to do today, this is where I need help, I'm impeded. We use impediment or impeded as opposed to,
Blockers.
Yeah, the blockers. But the point is, it used to be our stand-ups would go 30, 40 minutes and everything, and it got finally,
abysmal.
Yeah, finally we were able to drill it down to where sometimes we've done 8 minutes, half of it.
That's where you identify something that takes much longer
to
work out. And that's what you do there.
I mean, we do holdovers. Like the teams are much better at it. They'll call each other out. I didn't touch on this, but self accountability inside the team is a big thing. If you find someone language, you to help them out. If you find someone getting long-winded on their stuff, be like, hey, let's talk about this after this.
I didn't know if you had any. Obviously, you're training your slideshow. I could show what a Scrum board looks like. How the mechanics of it works.
Yeah, I don't have internet, or I'll show you ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the Scrum board, it's, for us, we used your classic logs, just because that seems to be.
Yeah, I was thinking, in describing the process, like you're right, you have elements called stories.
Yes.
They can be broken down into tasks, and then the stand-ups would be people standing around a whiteboard with columns drawn on it and sticky notes, and there you write your story on the sticky note, and they literally move along the columns from the backlog to the grooming, to ready and progress, and they just move along. It's literally a board that just the stories move along. So now we use a product called Jira, which is the virtual version of that. It just comes up on a graphic on your screen, but it's the same concept. You literally drag your stories along as you move them through the process.
Yeah, I probably should put one of those slides on there.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and it was kind of late. I was like, I could go for hours on this. The purpose of Kanban boards inside of Scrum is to make your work transparent. In other words, anyone can walk into the room, in Scrum Inc., especially Dr. Solon, because he doesn't like the tools. He understands it. Mainly because, the security stuff, you kick him and like, hey, that's how we automate. No, I got to do this. He wants to walk in the room and actually see, where is that team at this moment, this time? Just go and see. It's right there. It's on the board. You can see.
Yeah. And
you don't have to ask anybody. There's no status updates. There's no interrogating. What are you doing? And then literally 5 minutes later, some dotted dash line, project manager is going to ask us a question. Like, nope, it's right there.
And again, with some of the organizations, Capital One have gotten very much into it, or I guess more purists about it. They literally they have PI, like planning intervals or whatever. They generally go. We do our PI or planning interval is about roughly a quarter. It's actually 6 2-week sprints.
Mm-hmm.
So is that right? No, yeah. So 12 weeks, 12 weeks, 12. So we end up 48. We have 4 weeks left over at the end. So we have like a PI 5 dot, 2 sprints at the end of the year. They're during like the holidays, and they're during when we're typically under a change freeze and not until a lot gets done. But literally, there's an organization, part of our retail bank group, the ATM folks. I mean, they are hardcore. They have their PI planning sessions, where they fly everybody in, either Richmond or McLean, and they literally get in, these massive meeting rooms, and they all break up into their teams. All the teams have names. Ours Kryptonic Force. There's but they all break up into their groups, and they have the whiteboard, they have the columns and the sticky notes, and they're literally sticking the notes, and they're all standing around this, and they're saying, "This is what we're going to get done." Now they might not get it all done. The chips get shuffled around, but it's pretty cool because that physical participation is part of what builds the team. So when we do our quarterly planning sessions, we fly our team members in. We're going to, and spend a better part of a week together. We don't spend a whole week planning, but we do other activities and other team building stuff. It really does help with that team orientation.
Yeah. On the planning side of it, Chesterfield County did their 5-year plan. They're switching their superintendent in that whole division. They're trying out Scrum. And it used to take them, I think, 5 to 6 months to get through that planning session, and they knocked it out in 3. Start to finish. So, which is kind of, and they're just starting out. Mm-hmm. Definitely forces you to focus on what's important. Because we're not moving that.
It's right there. Yeah.
I know, it's right there. Everyone knows that you're being long-winded, and they're going to kick you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's a sprint? I mean, what do you do in a sprint? You said it's 1 week, but is that
So
1 week every year, 1 week a month? And what do you do in that week?
Yeah, it's actually a time box. So a lot of the things that we do inside of Scrums are time boxed intentional. It forces a person to have, a focus of like, you only have a set amount of time. If you've been in meetings where they're like, we're going to start at 6 and we're going to end at 7. Literally, they will pick their stuff up at 7 and walk out the door. So we set a time box to force us to focus on getting this stuff done inside of it. So that time box inside of sprints, we do 1 week sprints. So we time box our work effort to 1 week, and we go through inspection and adaption.
It's like a work unit. So for example, the stories we kept talking about is a unit of work. So it's something, it's a piece of work, it's a deliverable you can complete in the sprint. So when we write our stories or create our stories, like I'm going to deploy a new version of SolidCore. God help us. But if we're going to deploy that product, I'll create a story that I'm going to deploy it. So all my prep and everything I need to do, if I'm going to do it in that single story, it needs to happen within that 2 weeks sprint. And if I don't complete the work, yes, it can get kicked to the next sprint, but that's discouraged. You know, you want to try to break your work up into, you know, digestible pieces that you can deliver. And that way you're delivering, as he was saying, often, you know, you're delivering more often, and therefore you're making progress, even if it's smaller bites. But you have a project that's made up, well, we actually, the thing called epic.
Yep.
Above a sprint is an epic, or a story, I'm sorry. So an epic would be a project like deploying, you know, a product. And you'll have all the different stories, all the different pieces. Well, you're going to, you know, alpha test it, beta test it. You're going to, you know what I mean, roll it out in phases. So all those would be stories within the epic would be more of a, you know, a larger piece of work. So it's just, there are a lot of terminology, but it's based around that cycle, that sprint cycle. How often can you deliver work?
Yeah, and to a little bit of correction there.
Yeah.
A lot of this is ground in manufacturing. So if you look at, you know, product backlog increment, you know, in the IT world we call them stories, they switch it to PBIs. It's a small digestible amount of work, something you're going to work on. You don't want more than about 2 days worth of work, you know, for a single human being. Has a lot to do with the fact that we suck at estimating projects. I'm fairly good, but I usually pad my estimates by 20 to 30%. Bid on multi-million-dollar projects, and yeah, 20-30% of a $1.2 million bid is pretty big. And you come in budgeting on time. But for the average person, they don't have that skill set. They I can come to you and say, hey, you know, you can estimate pretty accurate how long it's going to take in the next 8 to 16 hours. So we want to keep what we're going to do small. And then the sprint is literally a cycle time. 1 work week. You're going to start your work week, and then you say, okay, we're going to get all of this product developed, deployed, and shipped. Out it goes. So a little bit slightly different.
Yeah,
And
and that's good that you mentioned that, because we were talking about it before he started, is that we took on, we're in operations and essentially security ops where I'm working, but we do a lot of project work too. So we're not purely a Scrum outfit. You know, a lot of what we do is more of a kind of a waterfall, and that's not Scrum, you know, but we've adopted and adapted over the last 2 years. So we've kind of taken what's out of Scrum, what works for us, you know, and those cycles do help because you have a beginning and an end. You can say, well, I didn't finish that, so that is going to carry over to the next sprint, but now lesson learned, we bit off a little too much work, you know. It really does help, you know, keep us honest, you know, in terms of what we can accomplish.
yeah, it helps identify defects. Did I answer your question?
Sort of. So I guess, sorry, but the second piece of that was how frequently are you doing these 1 week, or in Granger's case, 2 week sprints? So is there a duration of period between the sprints that you're doing, or is it like
This is stacked on top of each other.
every
2 weeks is a
So if you were to take your
project is
if you were to take your entire, you know, year work cycle, divided by every 2 weeks, you know, in this case, in my case, it's 52 times.
So we have 26 sprints, and we have a sprint planning session where ours go from Thursday through 2 weeks Wednesday. So every Thursday morning we have a sprint plan. Every other Thursday we have a sprint planning session. We kind of iron out. Our project owner is our manager, and so he, along with our director, his boss, set priorities of the work. So we have that sprint planning session of what are our priorities for, you know, what does our director, our manager want us to get accomplished in the next 2 weeks? What do we want to focus on? And then we write stories or just little snippets to find the work we're going to do. We have the definition of done he was talking about, like what I'm going to, you know, deliver this. Okay, that's the definition of done. I'm going to get acceptance by the customer.
Yeah, so this is where, like, I had the same exact thing. I was like, okay, these are DODs. Actually, it turned out after I got slapped around a little bit, definition of done is what, for all tickets that get shipped, they have to meet the definition of done. In other words, they have to be audited, like all this. acceptance criteria is for the individual work criteria. Is that done?
That's funny you mentioned that, because we did
Yeah,
have those flip.
Like I had them flip like in my ticket structures and all this stuff. Like we had, all right, what's DOD? And then I, got in and started talking to a whole bunch of other POs that have been doing it a while, and they're like, you got it wrong there.
Yeah, so I flipped again, so we adopted things.
Yeah.
It made it work.
It's still the same thing. It was just like a terminology.
We have the
piece.
sprint planning, and every morning we have a 15-minute stand-ups. It's usually, ideally, in the pure Scrum world, you're standing around a whiteboard. But I got my boss in Chicago, and I got New York, so we do a virtual stand-up every morning on the phone. And like you said, at the end, we would do the retrospective, what worked, what didn't work. And we very rarely do a demo. Our director might take a demo on something every now and then. But it's just the work cycle. We just break it down into two.
Like if you've got a product that you're constantly adding features to, and it works really well when you're in ops, you're gonna have to adapt, figure out how you want to deploy that. One of the teams I used to manage, they used Kanban instead of Scrum. Yeah, that was because every day we were getting new work. You couldn't put the work off till the next person. So
Yeah, you could
We
plan on it.
literally just switched to Kanban last week.
Yeah.
So Kanban works really well for like break fix or first out type stuff. But
It has a similar
You can
work
plan your work for the week or 2 weeks.
I mean, they bastardized a version called Scrum Bond.
Scrum Bond.
And underneath Scrum, there's Kanban work. So
Which
if
is
you're
just a
doing a
flow.
mix between project work and, ops, what Sutherland's recommendations, kind of figure out through the previous work about what percentage of your team is actually doing ops. Bolted in there.
What was
Limit what you
Kanban
can
mean
actually-
in Japanese? I can't remember.
Oh, I can't remember.
But it's a term. It just
Yeah, and it's more like they walk up literally, it was a physical board.
you can have time, we call them releases now, we switched from sprint to release, but it's not like at the end of the sprint, everything like the board resets in Scrum or last, you
Yeah,
kind of start everything over again. Whereas the Kanban is just, again, the process flow from to do to done, with all kind of steps in between. But the work just kind of keeps marching, you just feed more work into the machine. And it just keeps marching across the board.
yeah.
And that's more suited to our repetitive functions that we have in ops, But we're such a blend, we're such a hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we suck up with Scrum. One team that does a lot of repetitive works, for banking interfaces, because, next to you guys, they change a lot.
We're going to try the Kanban for a little while. We'll see how.
Yeah.
We may switch back to this.
Oh, yeah, either way, like, underneath, they, for the most part, even though they might have, like, terminology fights, other fights, they're about the same. They're very similar, and some Scrum, there's a Kanban board. And if you look at the burn down chart, guess what, buddy? That's flow. Flow is a big component of Kanban. You have lit limits.
And we have to score all the stories, so we have a certain number of sprint points. So we assign each story points, and over time, we determine kind of what our, capabilities are. How many points can we knock out in a sprint? So we know not to over progress. It's still flexible, but it fluxes. But we get an idea of how, like for instance, usually our average is about roughly 80 points a sprint, a 2-week sprint. Well, last sprint we knocked out 140 points, so it's just like.
Ooh, pop quiz. Story points. Who's that actually important to? Important to management?
I think it's more important for the team.
It's for the team.
For planning purposes.
It's
So we kind of
to
get,
actually show the team.
we see if
how fast they're going.
they're all kind of things, velocity. So we look at our velocity as how many points did we commit to, how many did we complete. Okay, if we committed to 80 and only completed 60, then maybe we shouldn't commit to 80 next time, And there's
or your estimate, correct.
Or your-
Or
yeah.
the retrospective.
and we can
Yeah,
refine
there's
our
a-
estimate.
So, I can't remember his name. He studied tons of teams. Turns out that on average, most of the enterprise teams are overestimating about 20%. So he's like, okay, looking across the entire organization, all story points combined, they said they committed to this and consistently delivered this.
So why
Like
do
you
we keep
watch the
committing
box,
to this?
and he you know, he did the demonstration at Scrum RDA. Oh, you know, one, that's great. Number two is like, well, I mean, it should be like this. And he goes, why is there a gap? And he goes back and he goes, I'll tell you why. In a bit, because I don't know.
I think it's, I think we do it too, and I think it's, well, first of all, there's a buttload of work. We have a buttload of work to do, so we're trying to commit to what management is telling us they really want to
You've
get
got
done,
pressure.
but we don't have the personnel to actually deliver. And so that's right there indicative of, yes, it could be that we're overestimating or over committing, but, or under committing, or it's just that we're just, you know, got too much damn work. So
It's potential. So the official total line, and it was spot on, is from what I see from my teams, is teams that finish early do substantially faster. So the thing that I go to my teams is, like, we have 1 week sprints, so they naturally start on Mondays, but then they end roughly on Fridays and demo days. In one team, I'm like, okay, I want you to commit to everything to get done by Thursday. Get it all done.
Sure.
You know, another team was Wednesday. And so they get in the progress of meeting their commitments constantly. And through that process, in one team, they did a 40% increase in their throughput. They got in the habit of committing to exactly what they feel comfortable and get done, and then knock it out. And holy crap, I did that. That consistent rhythm. So yeah, it's great to overcommit. But you can't, like, it's hard. Like, if you're like 80 points and then literally you're in leadership and you're going, it's just
but
something
when
we
you're
don't
constantly
get.
kicking 20 points over to the next sprint,
Like,
you're
it's-
already starting with a
You're 20 points off.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
already behind the curve. behind.
So yeah, we wiped the board and started like, okay, give me Thursday. We got to Thursday, lo and behold, they were committed, but I had an extra day. They got everything done the next sprint by Friday. And then by the third sprint cycle, which is why I love 1 week sprints, 3 weeks, we got it right. There's a 2 week sprint cycle, that'd have been 6 weeks.
We've been at it 2 years. We still haven't been there.
Well, I know. I go to people and I'm like, oh, that's really, really hard. And I'm like, that's part of the reason why I'm addicted to startups. And then I went in the enterprise for a while and came back. You know. But yeah, the important thing is complete what you commit to. Those teams move substantially faster is what the data says. So you can't really rely on that one. Or finish early. So if they do commitments, have them finish early. Did I answer your question?
Yes, then I have another one, but Michael had one
Yep.
for me.
Yeah, so what's the difference between Scrum and Lean Six Sigma?
So Lean Six Sigma is a pretty heavyweight framework for manufacturing. So Tayochi, I think I wrote that name down. I can never pronounce it.
So my understanding is the Six Sigma is more of a process management type, where you examine your process and you try to find where you might have rework loops or gaps, or also try to figure out where the most important or risky cut it might be. But the Scrum is more of how to get your work done, a framework for how to do your work. Sort of sprint cycle. So if I had a lot of defects in something I might be manufacturing, I might want to Six Sigma to try to figure out where my breakdowns are.
Right.
So I might have a consistent.
It's more geared towards the quality control.
Yes.
It is. So here in the U.S. we call it Lean. Lean Six Sigma is born out of it. Originally it's Toyota production system, and the two dudes I can't pronounce. Dr. Stone actually flew over there. A lot of the components we see in Scrum are taken out of the Toyota production system. Fast forward to now, Toyota asked him to come back 2 years ago to teach the rest of the organization the Toyota production system. The pieces that they did not like in Toyota versus Six Sigma was very, very heavy framework. I busted into it and I'm like, hey, this is gonna be great. And then, you know, I think there's A1 forms, like there's like this pre-done login scripts. Like the Lean guys I've met, have been hella super smart people. And I was like, wow, I'm not that smart.
Yeah, I had a database project where they were trying to do Lean Six Sigma, and we went for about 3 months and basically got nowheres with it.
It came about the process.
Exactly. And
And
I
that's,
finally looked at my supervisor and said, just let me run it and I'll deliver. We did, but so I just never really liked Lean Six Sigma because of that.
yeah, we didn't. It's the reason why I distinguish between the Toyota production system and Lean. We made it about the process. And then the Toyota production, piece of it, it's about the people. There's a lot of great things in it. One is servant leadership, in the sense that if you're a leader, go be there. Don't talk to someone who's going to talk to someone else who's going to tell you what it's like. But you go physically be there. You go talk to the people who are doing the work, because they're the most important one. So if you take your typical org chart, which kind of looks like this massive tree, turn it upside down. Then you light the world on fire. That's Amazon. Look at their market cap now.
Right.
Their people drive it. Facebook, their people drive it. Zuckerberg's cool. I don't listen to him. I listen to his people. There's some pretty bright cookies in there. So,
Yeah, but I already asked one, so anybody else have a question?
no. You guys have questions? Well, I'll ask you. Oh, yeah.
So, speed to market has been a thing for a long time in the
Yes.
US, especially. And what we're seeing a lot of nowadays is a lot more bugs, a lot more vulnerabilities. Is that a result of bad, like Scrum and Agile implementation? Because a lot of things you mentioned in there are, bake your QA process in, bake your pen testing, things like that.
I don't know if there's more bugs out there. If you take a look at,
So there's more updates than ever before. I don't know if it's just a result of the
Faster cycle times.
The faster cycle times.
Yeah.
I'd argue that there may not be more bugs, but there are more people looking for bugs. maybe
Yeah.
ever, but two, I would argue that there are at least, MITRE has increased the CVE. So it used to be CVE the year and then 4 digits. Now it's up to 7.
Yeah.
So I would say that probably accurate to say there's more bugs at least being found. There may have been more bugs before, but there's more people looking for them now.
The old Russian thing that, they found that places.
It could be the same system around. Just it was not the full thing.
Well, the trade-off, you're not making security here.
Also, I can tell you that figures will slowly ahead. So, we're long with the ride now.
There's a lot of great things in security now that didn't exist. It's part of the reason why I'm here. Your vendor management has been fantastic. Breach notifications, I absolutely love the fact that the states now require. Executive teams are getting hosed because you have this massive breach and like, well, I didn't know. The board's like, you shut up. That's what we pay you for. So, I think the security culture in general is moving in that direction. A lot of the people I've hired out of college in the last few years, they teach security in college now. It's part of the comp sci agreement. So, yeah, we might get a lot more bugs. Is it because we're a lot more security focused? I don't think so. I hope so. Our entire world is built on some open source projects that, when they have massive defects and you don't patch them, they'll have problems. So I don't think that Scrum and these rapid things are introducing more bugs. I think that they're probably doing better at finding them. Their security postures, really what's helping. But the increase in feature updates, I go back to small change, small risk, big change, big risk. I'm not testing, when I talk business cycles, I'm not talking small 1 week cycles. I'm talking big ones. I'm going to use startups as an example. Every organization has this. We started our process with a whole bunch of assumptions, business assumptions when we built our model. So we built this fictitious model for us, and we were like, hey, we're gonna make a bunch of money. Woo, let's celebrate NASDAQ. It tested the assumptions. The faster I get those products to market, to engage with a customer, I get feedback, which means I either validate or invalidate some of my assumptions. So, you abstract away IT. IT is just how they deliver that, for a lot of companies. Business people, they got the spreadsheets, and I'm one of them. I think this is the right direction. It's my assumption. I need to test it. How fast? Like Microsoft switched on another client chips, and the Office 365, like their features are just nonstop now. And you remember back in the day, it was like a 3 or 4 year cycle, and then you had to retrain everybody. Well, now the features come, and they're taking feedback, and I don't have to train anybody because they're small changes. Like, oh, I have this new feature, and then progressively grow and so forth. So, yeah, there's change, but it's change.
As people are adopting and embracing this, and more, younger people coming out of school with this mindset already baked in, they're able to achieve this in a way that wasn't previously possible.
Yeah, they talk about big one, SQL injection attack. The number of times I have to go looking for it, especially on new teams, because I have to go educate that the tools are baked into where it's not possible anymore. That was a conversation I had when we booted up 2 years ago. It's like, hey, we're gonna, there's, that's top 10, and they're like, well, what's that? And I'm like, fantastic. Let's have a powwow. Well, we started getting through them, and like the tools that they were using, when used the way that they were using them, which is standard industry practice, that doesn't apply. That doesn't apply. That doesn't apply. Well, it's not even possible. It's 65 to 10%. So I think our overall posture has got significantly better. What's that? As long as you're using them. I mean, the previous organization, like we did huge. You hear what PeopleSoft is? Okay, this don't huge. HR is how you do global payroll. If you're a 60,000 person global manufacturing company, or Pepsi, Coca-Cola, stuff like that. They have manufacturing, financials, a whole bunch of other things. Which means that we were messing with, large financial and HR payroll system. And 6 years ago, we got our first vendor management. Like, oh, we did our own standard change management inside the organization. It's always like, well, we want to do an audit. Huh. Okay. A year or two after that, every enterprise was one. Our entire security posture changed overnight. And it got significantly better for that organization. So I think overall, yeah, we're heading in the right direction, which is exciting. But yeah, we still have a ways to go. We still have, a lot of the stuff that scares me, and in our teams are just their logic bombs. That's we inadvertently allow access to things that shouldn't have access to, no matter how well I test. So it's always going to be out. That's just
how much testing you do in the development environment.
Yeah. There's an old mantra about why ship to production so fast so often. Ultimate testing ground is in production. I hit them nonstop. Like, get through all this testing, feel confident, let's push to production. If they're like, well, I don't think, I'm like, oop, why is it production ready? Let's have a conversation. And then they're like, okay, well, I don't think we should push that fast. No. You can't reproduce the number of use cases of your users to put in production. That's the ultimate QA place. Which you strap your monitor on there and stuff like that, and you watch how they interact. That's QA. For us, we also use Mechanical Turk from time to time. Pay people to come and wreck our stuff. Give me a quarter. It's surprising what you can get someone to do for a quarter. Like, fantastic feedback too, but small changes in production means small risk. Also means you get it. production items, they'll tell you the truth. The workshop doesn't. They'll know in production. I'm like knocking on wood because I'm like, what other questions?
It's too late. You said it.
What's that? I know.
You can't take it back.
I'm like, I'm leaving out like the warwoods and stuff like that. Especially we had huge go lives, transferred massive data from old IBM Big Iron, and it was 72-hour fighting nails, nonstop, constant wheels, conference times open, 24 hours. And the CEO was on the wall. Because come Monday, if you didn't have payroll going, you get the news. Fast forward to now, it's like small change in production. Oh wow, this one small customer had this small issue.
Chris, do you know what a Kaizen exercise is?
What a Kaizen is, or a Kaizen exercise, is the thing that you want to work on, the process improvements. Kaizen is process improvement.
How does that fit into a Scrum model?
Okay, so inside of our retrospective, we talk about things that work, doesn't work, and more importantly, my favorite question is what will make your job suck less? Trying to identify that Kaizen, that piece of process improvement that we can do to either be better, add value, or make our jobs suck less. In other words, automate or enact.
So that fits into where in that sprint will that Kaizen exercise come in?
The retrospective. And then the Kaizen, the process improvement, is I used to label it storyboard Kaizen. Now we're great to take it to do the work. Or if it's a really big item, like we'll put it in backlog into our backlog rooming, like we'll bust it up, we'll do spikes and other things to figure it out. Like we'll digest it, we'll knock it out, we'll get it done. So our Kaizen could actually, in some cases, it's span 3 or 4 sprints. But at the end of it, one particular case, production one that went for 5 days, another 30 minutes. Now it's down to 5 minutes.
It really does fit in the cycle because you got sprint planning at the beginning, you got the retrospective at the end, so you got that whole loop, feedback loop, closed up at the end of the sprint. And you kind of started on the loops. And you have a larger planning interval so that it comprise multiple sprints.
You just increase the time horizon of your planning. Part of the reason why I like Dr. Sutherland's version of scale is that a small unit, you can take the same process, make some minor adjustments, because we pick. Or you can descale quickly. A little food for thought that I found as I look at more organizations adopting it. You will have a natural progression with the large organizations. The middle management team starts to compress, solve, go away. The stacks of management will start to go away. You don't have a reporting structure necessary. It's all there. A lot of the line managers end up, the scrum masters being old. So, reporting structures start to go away. Get more efficient. Cool. Any other questions on? I don't know what am I could stay here all night.
I think this was an awesome topic.
I still had that one last question I hadn't asked yet. So,
Hey, fire away.
besides the answer being because I really like what I do and I'm not lazy, what's the incentive to the employee when it sounds like what you're trying to do is increase productivity? So as you're showing this increased productivity in the business, middle management starts to shrink. How does that affect the people doing the work and our businesses recognizing that in a way that incentivizes the employees?
So that's a multi-pronged answer. And the answer is what I'm trying to do, this goes into a production system, is I'm engaging and empowering the people doing the actual work. That's the core piece of Scrum. In other words, the team decides what it can and can't do. The team is looking and self-evaluating about its throughput. Hands-off management. A little piece that it's kind of a sore tooth point. Hate forcing people to track their hours. Science is borne out. You don't do that. Track their throughput. How much value do they deliver? That's a much better conversation about tracking. Did you get here at 8 a.m.? And then how does that translate to the business side of things? Okay. I don't have a slide in. They're dying. They're dead. You either adapt and engage your teams, empower them so that you can tap into, like, you like what you do, you love what you do, you wouldn't do it. It's my job as a leader to get the hell out of your way. Because when you start running full steam ahead, and I'm there like going, hey, yeah, like this is the direction, let's go, let's go, let's go. I crush the market. And those that don't engage, don't go through this process, they won't be on the Fortune 500 lists in our lifespan. Probably won't exist. So the pressure to them is, was it Amazon's only 15 years old? 20 or something like that? Look at Apple. Or, Apple to a certain extent, but Spotify, Facebook, Google. I mean, between all of those, it's $1 trillion in market cap overnight. They're one garage startup away from getting crushed. I promise you, they're scared. They're deeply scared. They're looking for change. They're looking for options. A lot of them just don't know what they did. Even inside of protected industries, insurance and healthcare and pharmaceuticals, high barriers to entry. Just watch capital going after. Part of the reason why I like startups. Change your diet.
So in the scenario where you said you moved the release date or the date back to Thursday instead of Friday, they meet the Thursday, you have your final wrap up. I forget the term. Retrospective.
We don't have it on Thursday. It's held at the same time, same place, every time.
So they've shrunk that down to Thursday. Does that mean they're done with their week?
Yeah. In other words, you've committed to amount of work. The cycle is still the sprint, Monday to Friday. In other words, but I want you to commit only to Thursday. Prove to me we can get everything done on that Thursday. Because stuff happens during the week. There's a whole bunch of work you do that isn't on the board, it's hidden work, all kinds of things. Like, things happen. So let's baby steps. Let's get into the process, consistently delivering every week. That's what it's about. So for the one team that happened actually today, they hit their commitment yesterday afternoon. They're like, well, I want to pick new things off the backlog. So they'll start working next week, pulling those forward. And that was, the conversation was like, okay, well, you got all these other tickets left in work. Like, can you go help them out? And he was like, well.
Or they can work on some of the feedback stuff too.
What's that?
Or they can work on some of the feedback issues.
Yeah, so for one team in particular, because we're trying to adapt to some retail demands and some new thought stuff coming through. Literally we talked about it Thursday last week, and they spent this morning getting the tickets ready, and they're going to work on it like right now for next week.
The part of the 4-day thing, that was just kind of to give them a win. Like,
it is to get them in the habit of consistently delivering.
Right, commit as much as you can finish in Thursday, so if something happens, you've got Friday kind of pick up the slack. What differentiates great teams from mediocre teams is consistent delivery. Even if it's small, junky amounts, they consistently deliver. Because you can build something on that. You can go and accelerate that. You can do things. You can, if you're consistently delivering, yeah, that's fantastic. When you're super inconsistent, you spend a whole time to iron those things out. Did I answer your question?
You answered it. Wasn't the answer I was looking for. I'm like, hey, I committed to this. I got this done. My incentive is I'm out. That's not the answer.
No. The answer is that you got it done. You celebrated.
Do I get a bonus at the end of the week?
Oh yeah, we'll
celebrate.
Like, part of our retrospective is we'll celebrate. Like Fridays when we hit all our stuff. Granted, because we're startups, like we'll crack open beers. We'll spin off an hour early. Like we'll celebrate our wins. It's really important as a culture.
there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be some payoff for all of, you're using terms like sprint, which in my mind means like bust ass, knock it out, and
You want
then
to
reap the rewards at the end.
Yeah, but inside of rugby, if you look at Scrum, when they actually, the part of Scrum, when they put their locks on their heads together, the reason they chose that term is because you are trying as a team to push that ball into the goal at the end of the week as a team. You score that goal, it's a great feeling. Celebrate, have fun, it's fantastic. And if you score it sooner than you expected, then celebrate it. Like, grab some beers, woohoo, grab the next line of work, and keep chugging away.
There's another term that we picked up called swarming. So if you've got stories on left on the board, and because I've got a little extra work than you have, you know, and a couple other people are finished with their stories or their work for the week, and I'm struggling.
Yeah.
You swarm the story. Everybody jump in and do, you know, if the skill sets match, you know.
Even if it, you know, I didn't touch on this cross-functional, you know, training. QA is owned by everybody on the team. Security is owned by everyone on that team. It is on the team to get it done, which means that a lot of the developers spend time as a QA person, which is fantastic. To have a QA person be like, you know what, I've got you, and you're a young developer. When they exit that cycle, how they program their styles, like, changes. You start to think like that skill set.
Well, let's go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I can go on and on and on. I love this stuff.
Appreciate it. Here's a challenge point.
Whoa, Stu.
Yeah.
Chris, that was an awesome.
Yeah, it was, but we want to have some time for Stump the Chump.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things.
You haven't been doing that?
Chris,
is this your thumb drive?
Yeah.
What's it? No, actually, it's my pointer.